Hello everyone, Sable here, and I'm covering week 3 of UUCL now. I don't really have much more to say than that, so let's hop right into Tay versus magialice. We got a Doug trio and a Kangaskhan, so this is unideal for Tay, and if you're leading the Doug trio, that suggests to me that you're hoping to catch like Electrics, Kadabra, Haunter, Hypno. None of those coming up here. Kang, pretty much one of the worst outcomes in the lead for Doug trio. So we'll see what theta Aerodactyl. Okay. Interesting pick. This suggests to me if that's the switch into Kang, either this is gonna pivot or this is like a fast spam team that just doesn't really have any good Kang switch-ins. I wonder what this arrow is going to click. That'll probably say a lot about the team. And Alice looking in a really good position if this Kang has like Blizzard or something. Arrow does not really have good special bulk or bulk in general. It's just the typing that carries it. Switching out, so either that's like counter Kangaskhan or just doesn't want to take the damage when there's an obvious Doug trio here and get a little use out of Electabuzz. But definitely a bit tricky to use right. Like you have to call body slams on the correct turn as Doug trio comes in or you just kind of get owned. But not wanting to risk the Fire Blast burn onto Kang, I wonder if Alice calls this. And she does. If that pairs, this is really, really good. Yeah, the situation looks horrendous for Tay already. With the Doug paralyzed, a lot of its threat is gone. Lapras comes in because both things are Blizzard weak, and this kind of forces like a sing click, but she just takes the safe Blizzard and misses it. So now this is a bit tough, but if Electabuzz takes sleep, I think you're pretty happy with that. And if it doesn't, I mean, you can just body slam here and cover everything, get a little damage on Hypno. Tay smartly not taking sleep here because this would be like the worst possible target to sleep. But it is a lot of hypno damage, so that might put Tay really behind, especially because Kang probably just comes back in and threatens it again. And she correctly calls Hyper Beam even with an arrow in back. That's a nice call because it's pretty scary to switch arrow into body slams anyway. And this time going Hypno and catching a double edge. Arrow's damage pretty ineffective in this tier. Honestly, most of the threat is its 25% critical hit rate, as well as just being able to come in on Dodrio, Dugtrio, like it has some entry points for sure, but it doesn't really do very much damage if you don't get crits. That helps, but if this takes para, I'd say it's no longer a threat, but just gets crit out of the game. What does Alice have to click Psychic on that and not T-Wave? I guess maybe, I mean, the thought can't be Dugtrio coming in because it's paralyzed, so I really wonder why that wasn't a T-Wave first. Just to ensure you can always take it out. Maybe the thought is it's like agility Aerodactyl, which would be a bit weird, but not totally out there. But even so, I think you just do it. And Tentacruel from Tay, that kind of suggests a team that is really trying to bait and damage Lapras to enable whatever's left. Could be a bunch of Blizzard Weeks, could be an Articuno. Art Dug into Lapras is definitely just being sacked to enable something else to get in. Or I guess a pivot to Kadabra, which seems really scary, especially with another crit for Alice. This is horrid. And T-Wave, not really the ideal move there, but like you have to T-Wave this Lapras to control it. And now you just need a para or you're really in a bad spot. So we got 4 really fast Pokemon. Presumably this last is either a Lapras or a Kuno. And so it is Lapras, gonna get the KO here, but then like if you lose a Sing War, this game is pretty over. And there's also a Victory Bell, so it's not even a Sing War, it's just forced sleep. But Victory Bell missing here and getting crit out of the game. Wow. So Alice bringing another Victory Bell after it served really well last week, deciding to nearly solo an Articuno, which was crazy. One of the craziest things I've ever seen in this tier for sure. But now a little bit of luck back for Tay as he actually gets a crit this time and removes the Vic after a Sleep Powder miss. But Alice is going to hit the sleep, and now you can just click T-Bolt with impunity, so I don't really know what Tay can do, except for instantly wake. But instantly loses tie and gets put back to sleep, so this is hard. I think maybe you have to consider pivoting through Doug and try to get to Tent on Blizzard. But like even then, you're really not winning. This turn now, it doesn't even have to click Blizzard, so... Or I meant it could have clicked Blizzard to cover Doug coming in to pivot, but either way, like Tay's just gonna sack, save the tent so that Sleep Clause is active and try to go for game. Like at least at +2, you do have a decent shot to remove this, but then you're gonna lose to the last probably regardless. And it's Hydro instead, so Tay maybe doesn't even have it. Yeah. Oh, okay. I don't know what this Tentacruel was for then, but that's gonna be game one. There's no real way out here. Funnily enough, another quick wake, but doesn't really matter at this point, and that's game one. Goes to Alice. Tough one for Tay. A lot of crits early, but I don't think the team really did any favors with that much frailty. Like Arrow gets one-shotted by Lapras and just generally doesn't take special damage well. Doug, Kadabra, known for frailty. Tough. I don't know what he saw in the scout to justify it. Maybe a lot of Dodrio would make Aerodactyl a good Pokemon to have. A lot of lead Electrics or Kadabra or Haunter would also make like Dugtrio a decent lead. But either way, it just didn't work out here. On Alice's side, hard to really say what the team is meant to do without the last being visible. But it's like, it's just a bunch of good Pokemon. Leading the Kang instead of the Buzz was really good matchup-wise here. Another Vic, I assume she just likes that Pokemon, and it seems pretty alright in this meta. Just getting to revenge Lapras or Hypno and click Sleep Powder is so stupidly good. Like, it's better than having to use Hypnosis and risk a lot more of a mischance, even if here it just failed and missed. But let's go on to the next one. See how this one goes. We've got a Dragonite lead and a Dodrio. So this is probably a good matchup for Dragonite, but it's also pretty prediction heavy. You can 2-hit KO this with either of Blizzard or T-Bolt, right? But Hypno coming in could put you to sleep, although you were pretty happy to take some damage and para on it, I think. There can be like pivots to Lapras on Blizzard, and then you're pretty behind. There's a lot of ways that this can go wrong. T-Wave into ground types and then a pivot. A lot of things could go wrong. But T-Wave first on the body slam. Probably going to T-Bolt now. Oh, Blizzard. So risking a mischance and Lapras coming in. If this paras, this is really bad. But if it doesn't, then Dragonite actually looks pretty decent here. So body slam T-Bolt, or body slam Blizzard T-Wave revealed. Gyarados 1 point faster than Dragonite, so gonna have to switch to Lapras. Does it get called? Nope. Lapras can't one-shot this though, so Alice might even take the damage, but Hypno and T-Bolt is really good if that happens. Going for the Blizzard first, which makes sense because T-Bolt does about 68 to 80 to Gyarados, and I'm pretty sure Blizzard usually makes up the difference, does about 30 something. So it's like it's a prediction for sure, but it's almost a mid ground, and the damage range isn't like terrible. I think you have decent odds of one into the other getting a KO. Should be, I want to say about like a 96 to 100 something, like 110s at worst. But sending Dragonite in to take Hypnosis now after Hypno gets in, but Hypno took a nice chunk of 1/3. Now Hypno into Hypno is pretty tough. It means the Hypno is going to get chipped a lot as it comes in or take T-Wave. In this case, I think Seismic Toss is a happier thing to take than a T-Wave. And Tay not going for Hypnosis. Just looking for damage, not T-Waving it either, so interesting. Alice mid-grounds gets the para on Lapras, and now you might even consider just staying and bolting it, but she's going to back off, go to the Hypno. Another high roll from Tay's Blizzard, so this is probably in range of another Blizzard, but you have to not get special dropped and not para. So it looks like Tay is just going to decide to sack this Dragonite for position and probably has some physical attackers in back to push forward on this. And Kangaskhan's a physical attacker, although Body Slam could miss here on the range, so Hyper Beam. Not actually sure if Body Slam actually KOs at 32%. Might have to be like a pretty high roll. Yeah, I think it's a pretty high roll. So just gonna keep pushing with Kang here on Lapras. No Body Slam para and gets crit. That's brutal. Hard part of using Kang is that 40 special can really screw you over. Now here, surely you click Hypnosis. Yeah, but unlucky. And Raichu in on potentially another Body Slam? No, on a T-Bolt. That's a lot happier for Tay. 2 water types revealed. Surely there's going to be a Raichu check, and it's yet another Victory Bell. Definitely neutered by being paralyzed. So going to go to Hypno. It's pretty hard to switch around this right now. Sleep Powder is a huge threat, but any damage on Vic will make this a lot easier. So Alice switching out. Let's see if Tay called it. Tay clicking the safe Psychic. I do think there was a reason to consider Hypnosis there because Alice, this is probably her only way to check Raichu, and Raichu is going to blow through both of these because they're chipped. It would one-shot Gyarados anyway, but Lapras being chipped is really big because Raichu's Thunderbolt does about like 49 max to Lapras. So I think positionally you can consider the possibility here of just clicking Hypnosis for progress and then make it impossible for Alice to do anything. Psychic not as good because now the Raichu's revealed and now she can just kind of click Body Slam with Gyarados and then go right back to Vic when it comes in. A Golem. So Golem on an calling out a Hyper Beam. So this Gyarados doesn't have stab. It was running Slam Beam to hit Hypno and Kadabra and other physically frail stuff. That's kind of an interesting call out from Tay. I wonder if he saw something in the scout, because obviously you're never going to Blizzard there. It's always going to be Body Slam or I guess Hyper Beam if you have it. But that miss actually a really big, like really beneficial for Alice because now you do just click a free Blizzard, although I think Tay is probably happier with a Blizzard than a Body Slam here. And double going to Lapras on the what's expected to be a Raichu is really interesting, not taking your Paraslam chance. And Lapras switching out to Victory Bell, but Tay calls that with a nice double to Hypno, and this time does get the damage. If that's Hyper Beam Raichu, I believe this might just barely be in range. And Alice clicking Razor Leaf, not messing around with a 55% chance to hit. And Tay T-waving for position, trying to cover a switch out. Interesting. I think I would have just taken the KO in this case, but the Golem is really rough here. I don't think you send. I guess that means that the Raichu couldn't have KO'd this Victory Bell, but that's so bad positionally. I think it might. Yeah, it tanks Blizzard. Unless you get crit again. So that's pretty rough for Tay. Probably. This looks pretty bad if the last can fight Raichu at all. Which we already see Dodrio Gyarados down, and it's a Dugtrio. That's like the worst case scenario here. You can't really switch to your Lapras and gets crit again. Oh, that's so sad. Yeah, Tay just is going to lose this one unless Lapras hits through Para and then hits a Sing immediately, and that's the game. That's really sad. That was a tough one. And not even going to get to the Lapras, just going to lose your own Lapras to Paras. So, rough one. I think these early metagame like sets have just been really wonky. I think everyone's still figuring stuff out, and unfortunately, that means there's also going to be a lot more variance. So this one going the way of Alice. Tay, unfortunately, just getting crit, crit, crit over and over in these games. I do think Alice made some very nice positional plays, so like it's not her fault that she also got a lot of luck going her way. Ultimately, she set herself up to click more attacks and therefore get more luck. But definitely a tough one for Tay. A lot of things just going wrong from pretty early in these games. I do think Alice's teams maybe set her up for this a little bit too, in terms of like having better options to switch than Tay did. Like I didn't really love that Aerodactyl on that particular team. I think the idea is kind of cool. Like it would have been good on this game, you know, with a Dodrio lead, a Dugtrio in the back. Arrow could have done a lot more work here, but also on that prior team, I think it was just a little too over reliant on 4 fast guys that were very, very frail. So hard to say. I kind of liked Tay's game 2 team, except I think that maybe that Golem needed to be something faster, even like a Dugtrio. I just think it's a little too slow with the Dragonite in the lead and the Kang, and like nothing over 100, just one Raichu at 100 to cover your speed. Makes it pretty hard to stop like a Persian or a Dugtrio or a Kadabra, any of those really. So tough ones for sure. I think Tay definitely could have won those with more neutral luck, but that's RBY sometimes, and that's Pokemon sometimes. So, pretty short set. That's all I've got on this one. I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, click the buttons if you want to give me dopamine. Let me know if you have any thoughts, suggestions, comments, questions about the sets, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.